Welcome to Glenbeigh Farm. Today I'm going to explain how to set jumps and distances and talk a little bit about the types of jumps I school over. I hope you enjoyed the video. So when you've decided you want to build a combination, the next thing to decide is what type of combination you want to build. Today I've decided to build quite a difficult one. It's on the short side. The in-gate always acts like a magnet, so to build a combination on the short side, the horse is going to be held by the in-gate, so that makes it much more difficult. Also, it's off a tight turn, which is also more difficult. I've set it oxer, 23 feet 6. That's a relatively normal distance for at home. 24 feet is a normal distance for one stride, because the horse will land 6 feet from the jump, take off about 6 feet from the jump, and make a 12-foot stride. Then I've got 33 feet, which is going to be a little bit quiet on 2 strides. And then I've got a 23 feet coming out, which is a quiet 1 stride. And I can jump this combination back and forth. I always set my jumps in feet, and I always use a measuring tape. This is a 100-foot tape, which I find great. It's very cheap, and it's a great piece of equipment to have. It's important to be accurate when you're setting the distances, because 6 inches a foot makes a huge difference to a show jumper, particularly when these jumps get quite big. And walking a distance yourself is not always accurate. Some days you wake up and you're a bit stiff, other days you're not so stiff, and your length of stride is not always accurate, so it's better to always use a measuring tape. All the jumps are set at 3 feet 6 and they're 5 feet wide. So what I do is I always set my first jump, then I want to have it 8 to 10 feet from the track. So today I've set it at 8 feet, so I'm going to measure that first. So it's 3 feet 6 tall, and then we're going to measure the width. When you're measuring the width, it's important to measure the outside to outside of the pole. So that's 5 feet wide, outside to outside. And then we'll check it over here. That's also 5 feet outside to outside. So now we're going to measure distance between the 2 jumps. When you're measuring between the 2 jumps, you go from inside of the pole to inside of the next pole. So you can see here, this is 23 feet 6 inches. We measure the next side. 23 feet 6 inches. And again, we measure the outside of the pole to the outside of the pole for the width, and this is 5 feet wide. Same on this side, this is also 5 feet wide. So now we're going to measure from the side of the arena to each wing to make sure that it's also 8 feet from the track. 8 feet. 8 feet, good. Now we're going to go and measure from the oxer here to the vertical here, and we want 33 feet, which is a quiet 2 strides. And 33 feet. And then the next step is to make sure that this jump is 8 feet from the track. Yeah, and again, this jump is 8 feet from the track. And now finally, we're going to measure our 23 feet from the vertical here to the wall. Again, 23 feet is a quiet stride, quiet 1 stride. Okay, good. As you can see here, I like to set my jumps quite airy. I've just got 4 poles in this oxer, a bottom pole which doesn't move, and the top rail will move as the jump gets bigger. I like to set my jumps like this at home because it's more similar to how the jumps at the shows are built nowadays, which are light, airy, careful jumps. I don't see any advantage in jumping bulky jumps at home because it's not how they're set at the show. I don't like ground lines generally on my jumps because I've never jumped a course at a show where the course builder is kind enough to put in a ground line, so I don't know why I'd practice that jumping ground lines at home when they're not at the show. Another thing I don't use a lot are rails in the ground, placing rails in the ground, because that draws the horse's attention away from the jump, and anything that draws the horse's attention away from the jump is something I don't like to encourage. If the rails on the ground are set incorrectly, the horse can land on them, and that can be quite dangerous. Your horse can get injured very easily. I also don't use straightening rails because I work enough in the flat that my horse should be working evenly on each side and staying straight. If for some reason my horse drifts a little bit over the jump, I like to use my riding to keep the horse straight and not a ground rail.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching.